you.
We're now recording, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, members and anyone watching. Welcome to the meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission today on the 5th of March 2026. It just turned 10 o'clock, so we will now get started with today's meeting and move straight on to item 1, which is the minutes of our last meeting held 29th of January. Are members happy to confirm those minutes, please?
The screen is frozen.
Okay, screen's frozen. If the audio is still there, thank you. The screen is frozen if anyone's watching. I've just signed the minutes, Ruth, there for you. Thank you. Hopefully the screen will unfreeze at some point. We've got the audio. This has happened before. It's not just on this committee, by the way. Have we apologies, and can you read out any apologies or substitutes that we've had, Ruth, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We've received apologies from Councillor Nunn, Councillor Bowes, Councillor Sarah Taylor and Councillor Turner, and we have Councillor King as substitute for Councillor Turner. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ruth. And just a gentle reminder to members, as agreed at the last full council, we don't have named substitutes at the last Scrutiny Commission meeting. We don't have the named substitutes, so it's incumbent on members, if they can't attend, to not only send apologies but try to have a substitute from their particular grouping if they can. That would be much appreciated. Thank you very much. I've got no chairman's announcements. We don't do how many days till Christmas, unlike another committee. Urgent business, I have got no items notified as urgent business. Item 5 is our declaration of interest. These are the duties to register, disclose, not participate for the entire consideration of the meeting in respect of any matter in which a member has a disclosure of pecuniary interest, as set out in Chapter 7 of the Localism Act 2011. Or withdraw from the meeting as stated in the standing orders. Do members have any interest to declare? No, thank you very much. Item 6 is note of non-members wishing to address the meeting. We note any non-members of the Commission who are attending. Thank you very much for attending and look forward to your contribution. Thank you very much. Item 7 is the Q3 2025-26 Finance Performance and Projects Report, which is the report of Councillor Alison Webb, Councillor Hewitt, and also Councillor Phil Cowan. I have been advised there was a slight glitch in the way the papers were transferred from one part of the system to this meeting. Papers which were at the cabinet were the correct papers, and we have produced, I think if you look around, you should have been, for Commission members, it was Appendix A and B, which needed to be swapped round. The correct papers are actually on the Council's website now for all the papers. The actual report itself is correct. I think Ryan Pack will update us on what we should be looking at, and then after that we'll invite Councillor Alison Webb and other colleagues to kick off with their report. Thank you, Ryan.
There we go. Morning, everyone. So, as you'll see, you've now got the correct papers in front of you, which relate to performance, projects and finance. The papers which were previously submitted included some risk papers within there. That's already gone to governance and audit at their last meeting, and obviously risk falls within their remit. Obviously, I'm happy to take questions around the performance stuff, which you guys now have in front of you, but I'll hand over to Alison, who'll do the intro, and then obviously we can take questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I am pleased to present to the committee today the Q3 Finance Performance and Project Report. Just as a reminder, this report covers the period between October to December 2025. A summary for each area will be given, and I'll be starting off with the performance, which is under my area. So, in Q3, the majority of our key performance indicators were at or near target. Firstly, I want to touch on customer contact. I spoke last quarter about the challenging period the contact centre was going through and how this would have a knock-on impact for our customer satisfaction score. Therefore, I'm pleased to report that we have seen improvement in this area since across Q3, notably in December, where we recorded our highest month since April 2025. The team is focused as ever in ensuring this indicator is as high as possible and also on ensuring we don't dip like earlier in the year. The other element I want to draw your attention to are FOI, Freedom of Information responses within timescale. This has been a strong area for the council, and compared to other councils, we are very strong. Still is, despite the challenging quarter. While staff sickness has impacted this, we have seen increased complexity in the types of requests and appeals the council receives. I know previously there's been debate about prioritising certain types of FOIs, Freedom of Information requests, above others when it comes to if it's a resident or from a resident or from a national business. But the rules around FOIs are clear, and we must treat each request equally. To counter this, the council is reviewing the frequently received FOIs to see if we can add more information online in order to provide applicants with this information up front. To put that all into context, in Q3, we received 152 FOI requests. These requests are spread across both individuals requiring multiple responses, some of which are in cross-team coordination. In some cases, we receive requests that need to be redirected to the county council. These requests are spread across a wide range of subjects, some of which relate directly to changes and developments within the district, for example, planning applications. Do you want me to take the questions now on this piece, or do you want me to carry on with Councillor Hewitts? Please, Chairman.
It'd probably be helpful to take questions as we're going along with the flow, and then we come to any finance questions. Otherwise, we get to the end and people may lose the thread of what, and we can then. So, if you'd like to take any questions at the appropriate junction, Alison, thank you.
Is there any questions on that piece? Right. Thank you, Councillor Land.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Webb. I'm really pleased to see that customer satisfaction is 84%. That's a good metric. Unfortunately, and I'm not sure it's down to the council, trust and communication from a lot of residents in my patch is poor. They don't trust Breckland, and the reasons for that is not really a concern of us now. But what measures can you say are being taken to improve that satisfaction? Because I think it's a key. They're all key indicators, but this is particularly important, I think.
Thank you, Councillor Land. I'm really sorry to hear that about your residents in Thetford. I will say in Dereham, actually, I haven't had that problem. Most people I speak to are quite happy about the service with the customer contact centre. I think we have really got a very high score overall, which is good. I'm open to, I'll tell you what I will do. If the chairman is happy, I will suggest that we bring a presentation from the customer contact centre about how we work, and then we go through how it's measured and everything, and then maybe at the end of that there might be some suggestions for how other measures we could be using, because I'd really welcome that. It's just a suggestion if chairman's happy with that.
Yes, that sounds an excellent idea, and I think one of the things is when people are faced with the website and they see a lot of text and so forth, I know that sometimes after a full council or cabinet, there are some videos. The more things you have in it actually explaining, particularly if it's also someone from the contact centre, and you can take people through, this is what happens with your complaint, this is what happens with how picking the phone up and so forth, because otherwise I think if people get the idea that there isn't any point in ringing or you won't get your query answered, sometimes bad news tends to travel more quickly, I'm afraid. So I think that would be a good idea anyway, but also bringing this back to the Commission. Thank you, Alison.
Any more questions? Councillor Banbridge?
Gordon.
Thank you, Chairman. And I do appreciate you letting non-members have a free range with questions. I see from the number of freedom of information requests you've had, I mean, that amounts to about 2 per working day during that quarter, which I think is quite high. Now, I appreciate a lot of this might be because of social media news these days and things like that, where all sorts of strange people want to know things. But do you have any estimate of how many of those applications for information might be entirely frivolous?
Okay, thank you, Councillor Banbridge. Frivolous, right, it all depends how you see frivolous. If it's a small request for information, it's easy for us to deal with. If it's a larger one, this is where the issues are sometimes with FOIs. They can be into a lot of different departments. Norfolk County Council, we have to hand some over to them. As I've said in my brief, what I like to say is that we have a good record for responding, but some issues are, I think when most people raise an FOI, it's because there's a planning application coming up or something like that, and I'm being honest here. Or, as you say rightly, something's been raised on social media that somebody wants to check out, or maybe it's a journalist who also wants to check things out. It's that side of things where it comes from. And of course, a lot of it is national stuff that comes forward, and they're asking us questions which the government has put measures in place, and really we can do as much as we can, but again we are led by a government and we have to do what the government tells us. It directs us what to do. So if someone's angry with something that a government's doing and asks us a question, we have to be honest with where the policy comes through. So frivolous, I don't think we get, I'm going to just check, do we get many frivolous ones?
Have to be careful as what I would define it as frivolous here. We get a wide range of requests, both related to stuff to do with Breckland and stuff where people send out FOIs nationally to councils to collect information around local government as a whole. What we're probably seeing at the moment is nationally FOI trends are going up, but I think it's the important bit for Breckland here is whilst our numbers are going up, we obviously can make decisions as to whether we release that information, whether we would apply an exemption to that information if we don't believe it meets the criteria for a freedom of information request. I don't believe this financial year we've had any that have gone to internal review where we've subsequently found that we should release that information. Equally, if we went through the process and they put in an application for an FOI and we rejected it under it fitting the criteria for an FOI, if they then went to an internal review, and again we rejected that, they have the option to take it up to the Information Commissioner. In my time, I don't know whether we've ever had a decision where the Information Commissioner has found that we should have released information. So ultimately, I think it's natural trends that we're seeing in terms of the number which are going in, combined with sort of specific requests around certain developments within the district. But certainly numbers are up on previous years this year.
Thank you, Ryan. Any further questions at the moment for Alison? Councillor Richmond, thought you got your hand up. No, okay. Thank you. I've got a quick question for you, Alison, on around homelessness. I'm pleased. Well, comment is obviously around HMO inspections completed. And I'm pleased to see that obviously you're exceeding the target there, which is good. Obviously, bearing in mind that those are members of the Durham Action Group, that's a big concern, and particularly because we've got such concentrations in Dereham around HMOs, but also other towns as well. We've got there under the homelessness prevention cases where it's prevented within 56 days, that's 80%. So we've exceeded we haven't quite got to, we've exceeded our target of 60. And we've just exceeded on terms of homelessness relief. I didn't know if you've got any comments on that, any measures we might be taking to try to improve that. Some of that's obviously beyond our own control. Thank you.
I'm going to pass that over to Ryan. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. So obviously we've been through the Housing Communities Transformation Programme, which is to obviously improve the way which we deliver those services. It's a interesting point around targets as well, because we're certainly having conversations about improving those targets for the upcoming financial year. I think it's sort of previously been based on benchmark stuff, and we've come off a fairly decent year as an organisation so far, so we'll certainly be looking to up those targets. But there's certainly a lot of activity through that programme in terms of improving our prevention and relief numbers. Also, separately to this, there's part of a wider review into housing indicators. So we've sort of previously said that once that programme's in place, we'd look at our indicators as a whole. So there may be something which comes out when we bring that forwards, which perhaps better highlights some of that work there.
Thank you, Ryan. If you would like to carry on, or your other colleagues as well, Alison, thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Hewitt sends his apologies for this morning. So you've got me again, I'm afraid. Okay, projects now. This report covers the position of the Council's high priority projects at the end of Q3. As you will see in the report appendices, our programme of high priority projects is a strong position, with the majority of projects in green and progressing as planned. In Q3, we completed and formally closed a number of projects that provide substantial value to the Council by strengthening operational effectiveness and, in turn, delivering positive and measurable benefits for the residents who we serve. This includes the Attleborough Leisure Project, with site works now underway, creating new and improved facilities to support the growth and ambition of the town. And as you heard earlier, we are building on this ambition quite literally with the addition of brand new 3G football pitch. This follows on from the successful completion of the 3G pitch in Thetford, which has also seen participation significantly increase. Unlocking and delivering such projects plays a key role in improving the physical and mental health of all our residents. Earlier on this year, you will also see that we have completed and formally closed the second phase of property purchases to support with the growing demand for temporary housing. And in the finance section of this report, you will note the cost benefits from delivering such projects are now beginning to become apparent, creating a net saving. To build on this further, we are now shifting our focus and supporting a new project to provide housing and support to young people as they leave the care system. These are just some of the ambitious and impactful projects this Council is committed to delivering. Thank you. And I'm going to stop at that point and take questions again, because it's Councillor Cowan's next. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions at the moment on the particular projects that Alison's outlined there? Thank you. Linda.
Just a simple question on the top line of that, car park transfers. And as a town councillor, obviously, I'm interested to know, what does HOT stand for?
Thank you. Happy to pick that one up. Yes, it's heads of terms, which is the legal terminology. Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions, please? Councillor Banbury.
Well, I did just have one comment, really. It was on Ryan's last comment, and I just want to say thank you for that, although you expanded on it a bit at the end of your session. I was actually challenged last night about our policies to do with housing, and that's something I will be taking up through channels. But I was glad to hear today that it's already in hand through this system, so thank you.
Any other questions? No. Well, I'm going to now hand over to Councillor Cowan to do the finance side of things.
Thanks, Alison. And
Sorry, Alison. Just one question on the projects. On the top one there, car park transfers, I know the heads of terms agreed by the 31st, and I know that from the initial discussions, I know that Swaffham had come back into the picture again. I just didn't know if there's any update there. If I presume everything is all proceeding okay, because I know we've obviously discussed this at full council, but also at the recent scrutiny committee here. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Mark for this one because he knows the details up to date a bit more than I do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the latest position, obviously there's lots of conversations going on at the moment between the various town councils. I'm not particularly close to that project, but I can obviously get a more detailed update in terms of a point in time. Obviously the report that's come forward today is the point in time at the end of December. Obviously with it being quite fast moving and lots of updates coming in, I'll make sure that I can get to you a more accurate position in terms of where things are at, and happy to circulate that to the Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Councillor Cowan.
thanks, Chairman, and good morning, members. You see before you a paper that is very familiar by now, I imagine. It follows the same format that we've seen on previous occasions, identifying a financial position, and I stress this is historical in terms of where we are today, physically today, compared with where this report was produced. This is a projection through to the 31st of March. But it clearly identifies our revenue position and our capital spend position. And I am pleased to be able to say that we are seeing a surplus on the figures at the moment. And as you can see, it's £657,000 in there. And given the circumstances in which we and other councils find ourselves at the moment, having a bit of surplus is no bad thing. You will see the detail in table 2, which identifies the significant variances. And whilst there have been some overspends or shown in black, I'm more interested in seeing the way that we're able to manage our finances in a positive way, which is the red text on the subsequent pages, which gives us effectively our 657,000. Now there's an interesting trend appearing here, which is quite useful. Firstly, that we are seeing interest rates hold up longer than was anticipated. So our financial performance shows a benefit there under item 17 of corporate finance of £336,000 betterment than we anticipated. But importantly, the next two in particular, development control is showing a significant improvement compared with what was anticipated at the start of the financial year. And you will no doubt remember that we saw a significant drop-off in the number of planning applications, which in turn has more than a significant, a dramatic impact on planning income. But that has turned the corner, as you can see, in this particular quarter. So we've seen an increase of just under £600,000 in planning income, which is extremely good news for the council. It also begins to help to address some of the significant problems that we face with housing delivery in the numbers that are being provided. And then a byproduct of the change in the way that housing benefit claims are made and refunded shows us that we've been able, compared with the position this time last year effectively, we're seeing a £600,000 plus a surplus on the account there. But I don't want to leave this page without talking about item 20, corporate efficiencies. I've spoken many times in this chamber about how we are able to respond to changes in working practice, changes in approach to working as a council. And this showing just under £200,000 of additional benefit to the council as a result of the evolved changes in the corporate working practice. So on the revenue account, we have a very positive position, and it's going to be quite useful to have some of that cash. Members will recall that when I presented the budget, I talked about the cost to this council and the taxpayer in Breckland of dealing with the local government reform position, and how we had budgeted in the current budget we've just agreed £500,000, but all the information that we have to hand, and I think I said this at the time, shows that we need to be looking at between 1.2 and 1.5 million pounds to get to the point whereby local government reorganisation may take effect. Having a surplus on the account really enables us to get to that position without a detriment to the benefits that the taxpayer of Breckland enjoy at the moment. It means we don't have necessarily to cut services in order to fund the local government reorganisation programme, of which, as you will be aware, this council was not in favour. If we look at the efficiency targets, you can see there how they're made up. That's on table 3, and you can see we've overachieved on what we anticipated. And if we move into the capital programme there, normally when I look at charts and tables like this, which shows an awful lot of funds carried over to the next year, it kind of worries me because I wonder why we haven't spent it. There are very good reasons why we haven't spent it. Some of these matters are totally outside of our control. So, for instance, Attleborough Leisure facility, we're not driving that programme. That programme is driven elsewhere. So we're moving the money that we've already allocated into the next year so that we can deliver on those capital programmes. And it's a healthy programme of work that we're proposing for the residents of Breckland, including leisure provision both in Attleborough and Swaffham, and in particular the 3G pitch. I think, Chairman, we go on to the Treasury programme, Treasury part of the programme here, section 3. You can see there that we have a very sound position where we are still able to lend money to other local authorities and support the community of which we are a member, because we have sound financial management. 61% loan to local authorities to enable them to carry on providing the services that they have to provide is no mean feat in this day and age. We also, of course, have to think ahead when we look at some of the requirements that are in the pipeline, and one of those shows up on the capital programme, which is the waste vehicles. Clearly, we have to procure waste vehicles. We were ahead of the curve when we did that. Nevertheless, because of the demand in that sector for the delivery of waste vehicles, there are not enough vehicles to go around all of the local authorities in the country that are being required on the same day to provide domestic food waste collection services. That's nothing we can do. It's not our fault. It's not the fault of other local authorities necessarily. But it isn't going to happen on April the 5th. It will happen, as we've been saying, later in this year in September, because we were ahead of the curve in ordering those vehicles. But there is a downside to all of this, and that is that when we do start collecting domestic food waste, regrettably, whilst we've received about £1.7 million in funding from government to help to provide that service, it still means that we have a shortfall of about £3 million on the revenue account to actually deal with the collection of food waste across our, as I said earlier in this chamber, 500 square miles of Breckland. Thank you, Chairman. That's about it.
Thank you, Councillor Cowan, for that very concise and clear presentation on the facts and the figures. And just before handing over to my members, will be interested to know that Philip's talked about the food waste and vehicles, and just say that Helen Crane has kindly agreed to we managed to move her diary around so she can actually come here in June to talk about that whole era of food waste vehicles, caddies and all that, which will be of interest to council members, but also residents in terms of that's one of the more visible things that the council does for every single person in the district. So that's going to be coming up in June. Thank you. Now hand over to any questions. Councillor Land and then Councillor Wilkinson. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Phil. I was very pleased to see that you've saved money by changes in working practices. This might not be your thing, but is there any chance you could detail what some of those changes were, please? Oh, sorry.
That's a very big question, Terry, and it's a good one, to be fair. It is a good one. And you'll be aware that the council for 2 or 3 years now has been changing the way we do business, both internally and externally, working with partners and communities. So it is a very wide-ranging question, and I'm not the one who can answer the detail of that. Seriously, if we can perhaps give a flavour with some of the team that are here today, but I'm sure that we could give you a written response identifying the detail if you're able to advise us specifically if there's any items that you are particularly interested in.
Absolutely. Thank you. Peter.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's just this food waste that niggles me. I mean, what intelligence did the government get to warrant this happening across the country? I know Kingsley and West Norfolk has had waste food caddies for probably a decade, if not more, and some residents have said they're not big enough. Some have said we don't need it, and I can tell you I won't be needing one. What evidence is this, available for this, and why, causing this expense on councils? Probably we should be more intent on educating families how to not waste food and that side of things. But
You're absolutely right, Peter. You will probably recall, I think, of course, it goes back a few years actually, when food waste collection was first mooted. This council took the view that we need to educate people rather than collect food waste. Food is expensive at the best of times, and it's certainly not to be wasted. It's a tragedy that people actually do have food that they can afford to throw away, frankly. But the other reason that, as you pointed out, in our part of the world, most people are able to, in the rural areas, certainly compost an awful lot of their food waste anyway. And the need for caddies just puts an extra burden on the whole district. There is no choice. Individuals can't opt out. We're not allowed to do that. Everyone is automatically opted in. And I'm sure Helen will talk about this when she comes to present this item to you in June. In my view, and it's a very personal view, I think it's a shame. I think education is far better. People are hard pressed at the moment. They really are. And the notion that people will be able to fill a caddy every week with wasted food is anathema to me, to be honest, and it should not happen. And then finally, as I said earlier, 500 square miles of Breckland. It's a very large rural area, and it's not an area which can be traversed easily either. And our Serco team spend an awful lot of time identifying the most effective routes in order to collect waste in the most economic way possible. And the notion that we then have to do the same with food waste is really quite a challenge for them, hence the cost which the ratepayer will have to bear, I'm afraid.
Gordon.
Well, I was just going to add to what's been said in the question and the answer, Chairman. We looked at this several years ago as a council at the same time as Kings Lynn. Kings Lynn at that time were doing a limited food waste collection. They decided that they would do food waste collections, but I believe it's only over 2 or 3 small areas of their district that they do it. They decided, I think as we did, that food waste collections in rural areas just don't work. And they don't work for the reasons that people have said, that rural areas do have less food waste because they compost it, they feed their chickens with it, they do whatever. And I mean, this happens. And I think the government are completely wrong in taking away the decision on whether or not and where or not you collect food waste from the districts who know what's going on and made a decision within central government that really couldn't possibly look at all the facts and make all the decisions about where, when and how such waste was collected. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda?
Just a question on table 3. I may have missed it somewhere, but we have table 3 proficiency, 3 figures clearly explained, and then one labelled other. Achieved 163,200, which is, by my rough reckoning, about a sixth of the total of that, is unexplained. Has the explanation appeared somewhere else and I've missed it? Or is this something that should be enlarged? Because generally, I'm a bit averse to having things such as other with big figures next to it.
I quite agree with you. And I asked this question of my colleague on my left many times when I see rounded figures effectively grouping a whole raft of stuff together. And of course, the answer is often that there's so many of these smaller items that it becomes quite challenging to list them all. But I think Alison on my left is better placed to give you a more detailed and fulsome answer to that one.
Thank you. So the titles in that table were based on the targets, and where it says other, those are things that perhaps weren't in the original target setting. So apologies, that's why it's other. We could rename that to sort of be not an original target or overachieved against target. The majority of that figure is actually pension savings that we've seen in this financial year, which have reflected further into future budgets, which you saw.
Linda?
If I could just come back on pensions, my past experience of reading these things here and elsewhere is that sometimes the pension fund figure goes up sharply, sometimes it goes down. So if I could just ask, is this a variance in how many people we're paying pensions to, or putting money aside for pensions for, or is it a variance caused by a reassessment of the big pension fund that we all tip into?
Yes, it is a reassessment of the larger pensions, so it's across everybody. It could be reversed in future, yes.
And it has in the past.
Is that okay, Linda? Thank you. Any more questions for Councillor Cowan? I've just got a quick one there. Any further questions from members? Thank you. Yeah, just a comment from me that in my 25 years plus in Dereham, just to say I'm extremely satisfied with my food waste and recyclable collections. I've only had something missed by one day once all that time. I'm very happy with the service, and although I live in the town, I can appreciate the economies of scale and the inefficiencies that we're going to have to be faced with going around the rural network. That's just my personal comment. Going back to table 2, in terms of substantive, the first item there talks about the variance there in terms of the write-off, and it says potential write-off. This is table 2, significant variations. I wonder, has that been factored as an actual write-off, Philip?
Chairman, you will be aware that I am a director of Breckland Bridge, and therefore I'm actually prevented from saying much, but I do want to say something about this. Breckland Bridge was a venture that was established many years ago, and as such, as in any development, a programme of works.
Sorry, Councillor Karen, this obviously is a matter of Breckland's business meeting and not Breckland Bridge, so I'm afraid, could you please err on the side of caution of what you're saying, and if it's to do with Breckland Bridge, please don't say anything.
Yes. Yeah, any caution that you have to apply? Thank you.
In terms of the write-off question, at the moment it is a provision, and as time moves on and come the end of the year, we will have a more clearer picture of the way the Colkirk scheme is heading. So at the moment it's still provisional, but at a point in time, if it needs to become an actual write-off, it will.
Any further questions for Philip Cowan and his team? No further questions. Thank you very much for coming along today for your concise reports. We look forward to further improvements and developments, and we'll be absolutely fascinated hearing about all the different size caddies and colours and complexities and stuff in our June meeting, which I know everyone's looking forward to with immense anticipation. Thank you. Thank you, Alison, and thank you, Philip and the team. Thank you. We now come, members, to item 8 on the agenda, outside body feedback. Have we had any reports sent in or any feedback already, Ruth, please?
Not at this point this time, Chairman.
Okay. I think, have you got a report to make, Peter?
Not a report as such, Chairman, just an update on the Breckland Youth Advisory Board with their Play for All programme. In half term, the young commissioners of Breckland visited Leeds City Council to, they was invited by the Leeds City Council to give them a programme of their inclusion play equipment, which is necessary for everybody to be playing for all. So that's a big thing still going. We want to try and educate all town and parishes across Norfolk and the country to having inclusion play equipment. The Norfolk and Waveney Health Overview Scrutiny Commission, I didn't go to the last meeting, but their update is that they are overviewing all government changes to the NHS and what's coming out, and keeping an eye on the 3 hospitals that are working together now under one foundation. So as things progress with that, more information will be available.
Thank you very much, Peter. I know you do a lot of valuable work with QEH as well. David Wickerson and then Gordon. David.
So it does. Just a reminder, really, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much, that we have a trustees meeting of the Hammonds Trust beginning of April, and I would like more members to consider if they have any possible applicants that they're aware of who need some financial help with regards to the Hammonds Trust, to email our clerk. Details are on the website, so that we can actually consider any further applications in April. Thank you.
Thanks, David. It'd be helpful if you can perhaps advise Ruth, our committee clerk, of any sort of links there. We can then circulate that round to members of the Commission, but also other members of the Council as appropriate. Thank you very much. Gordon.
Well, just to say, Chairman, I did circulate a report through Ruth, immediately after the last meeting, which did include 2 meetings that fitted in afterwards. My outside body seems to have got completely out of sync with Breckland's OSC. So I've got meetings next week, for instance, which I will report in writing and which Ruth will presumably send to you in due course. I'm happy to answer any questions on the last rather protracted report I sent in.
Thank you very much, Gordon. I mean, as with any outside body reports, if they're sent to us, they can be circulated, and when questions will be raised here in the commission outside. You've got a large number of outside bodies, and there will be further bodies that will take up our time in LGR. So, thank you for that contribution. I can't see any further reports from outside bodies on that. Thank you very much. Item 9 is scrutiny call-in decisions. I haven't had any items being called in for scrutiny here. I've received no councillor calls for action as yet. Item 11, which is our work programme and member issues. What you will notice in the work programme, in one of the key decisions, there's a reference there at the bottom of the work programme to the issue of food waste, etc. One of the key decisions, so that will be coming up as mentioned in June. The other item which will also become up of interest to DERA members, but obviously the wider council, any lessons to be learned, will be the report, first report probably the DERA Action Group. I know that Rob Walker's in the room, be able to confirm or add to that if he wishes to what I've just said. But that's anticipated at the moment. That's coming to the council in June. The task force has met, and the first meeting of the political oversight group. So we should have something there as promised at full council, asked for by the leader and myself. So we've got complete transparency and scrutiny throughout the whole process. So that's coming up. That's coming up in June. And if there are particular items in the June around what Helen Crane is going to be talking about, particular food waste, but particular items on that substantive item, let Helen know via Ruth here of any particular areas to particular focus on, because it's a big area of her portfolio. Obviously the food waste is going to be substantive in terms of changes in process. So I hope that is helpful. And again, obviously, I invite each member of the Commission to think about any areas they might want to be included in a future programme. I'm sure there will be developments coming out once we know what type of shape LGR is going to be taking place. There'll be other things which will, I'm sure, occupy the interests and scrutiny of the Commission. Thank you, members. If there are no further comments, really just to note that our next meeting scheduled at the moment is Thursday the 23rd of April 2026 at 10 o'clock in the Anglia room here, and I hope obviously we'll have the live stream working again, but we'll obviously have the transcript of the meeting and the audio and the minutes, and thank members and non-members for their attendance and officers today in our concise but productive meeting. And I now close the meeting. Thank you very much.